universe had one rule: don't wake the humans. For eons, the cosmos had remained in a delicate balance, where the most advanced and enlightened species lived in harmony, far removed from the chaotic, unpredictable nature of humanity. The humans had been quarantined on Earth, their restless minds left to evolve, explore, and destroy, but never to disturb the universe's greater design. They were meant to remain ignorant, like children, allowed to explore only the smallest corners of the cosmic playground, never daring to venture beyond. But that was before the discovery, before they broke the rule. Zara gazed out of the observation deck of her vessel as stars and nebulae danced across the deep, empty space. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, questions, and fears that had been growing ever since the transmission had reached her. The message had come like a ripple across the fabric of space. At first it was barely detectable, just a glitch in the cosmic static that formed the background hum of the galaxy. But as it grew stronger, Zara realized that this was no mere anomaly. This was humanity's doing. She clenched her jaw and turned away from the view. "How did they find us so soon?" she murmured to herself. Zara was not the kind to believe in coincidences. She had always understood the importance of the rule. The universe had one simple guideline, one that had kept the ancient cosmic civilization safe from humanity's unpredictable tendencies. Do not wake the humans. Zara's station, known as the Innoa Star, was a quiet, mobile outpost of the Omnir Network, an ancient and highly advanced coalition of intergalactic species tasked with maintaining order throughout the universe. It was not a warlike alliance, but rather a group of stewards. They monitored, recorded, and preserved. The network had seen billions of species rise and fall, and they had kept watch over Earth for millennia, waiting for the day when humanity would either ascend to join the greater cosmic order or become a threat that would be neutralized. The humans had always been a strange, volatile species. Their potential for greatness was matched only by their capacity for self-destruction. They were both beautiful and terrifying in their ambition. Zara had studied them for much of her life, learning every possible nuance of their rise from primitive creatures to something much greater. Yet they had never truly left their cradle. Until now. Her fingers tapped nervously on the console, activating the latest message she had intercepted. It was brief but powerful, a call that seemed to stretch into the farthest corners of the cosmos. "We are awake, we are ready." It was a human signal, their first transmission beyond the boundaries of their solar system. It wasn't a coincidence. Someone had found a way to pierce the cosmic veil, to crack open the gateway between their world and the greater universe. Zara stood up sharply, turning toward the door to the command center. As the leader of this outpost, she was responsible for responding to such signals, even when they came from Earth. And now, with the rule broken, her mind raced with the implications. Sorrik was already waiting for her when she entered the central control room. A towering figure of nearly 10 feet, his dark purple skin glimmering faintly in the low light of the command center, Sorrik exuded an aura of calm authority. He had served the Omnir Network for longer than Zara had been alive, and his wisdom was unmatched. "Zara," Sorrik said without turning around, his deep, measured voice resonating in the silence of the room, "I feared this day would come." Zara walked over to the large holographic display table at the center of the room, her eyes drawn to the scrolling data that filled the air in front of her. The signal was growing stronger with every passing moment, like a beacon cutting through the void of space. She had known this day would come too. The signs had been there. The humans were evolving at a pace far faster than any species Zara had witnessed in her lifetime. It was only a matter of time before they stumbled upon something they weren't meant to. "You felt it, didn't you?" Zara asked, her voice soft but full of urgency. They're already reaching out, trying to make contact. Sorrik nodded grimly. I felt it. I also felt what came before that. Something is different about this signal, Zara. It's not like the other signals we've intercepted from Earth. This one is a cry for knowledge. They are awakening. Zara frowned. She knew the term awakening all too well. In the ancient texts of the Omnir Network, it referred to a dangerous phenomenon, the moment a species transcended their natural evolution and began to tap into forces they were not prepared to understand. It was often a point of no return. Once awakened, a species could no longer be contained or controlled. They would either ascend into cosmic enlightenment, or they would be lost to their own hubris. The humans had not yet reached that point, not until now. The rule was there for a reason, Zara said, her voice steady despite the flood of emotions churning inside her. The galaxy, no, the entire universe, was not meant to be opened up to them until they were ready. But now, they've triggered the signal. Sorrik turned to face her, his piercing eyes locking onto hers. Do you think they're ready now, Zara? Zara hesitated. Her gaze fell to the holographic display which now showed a map of the galaxy, with Earth's location glowing brightly at its center. Surrounding the Earth were dozens of blinking points of light, human-made satellites, probes, and ships that were now extending beyond their home world. The humans were reaching out into space, more aggressively than ever before. No, she answered finally. They're not ready, but I'm afraid they don't realize that. Sorrik placed a large, comforting hand on her shoulder. We must go to them then. We must act before they awaken something they cannot control. Zara's heart quickened. She had known that this moment would come, but now that it was here, she found herself at a crossroads. The responsibility that had been handed to her, an ancient role passed down through generations of guardians, was heavier than she had anticipated. It was one thing to study a species, to observe from afar. It was another to intervene when that species was ready to break all the rules. We go, Zara said, her voice firm, but we must tread carefully. If we interfere too much, they may sense our presence and become even more unpredictable. If they feel threatened, they could destroy everything in their path. Sorrik nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. What is our course of action? Zara's fingers moved quickly over the control panel, pulling up data feeds from multiple human outposts scattered across the galaxy. There were more than a dozen ships now, most of them working in tandem, exploring distant star systems. The humans weren't just reaching out to the stars, they were building a network, a fragile connection with the cosmos that could either uplift or destroy them. We need to find out who is leading these efforts, Zara said, analyzing the data. It's possible that this signal wasn't a collective decision. Someone had to have triggered it, someone with access to the right technology, and a mind eager to break barriers. Sorrik's eyes narrowed. You suspect one of them is the catalyst? Zara nodded. Yes. And if we don't act quickly, we could lose them to something far worse than their own ignorance. The journey to Earth was swift but filled with a growing sense of unease. Zara watched the trajectory of the fleet, a mixture of human technology and Omnir stealth craft, as they sped toward the source of the signal. The stars seemed to blur as they entered the outer reaches of Earth's solar system. For the first time in her life, Zara felt the weight of the universe bearing down on her. The very fabric of space seemed to hum with energy, as if it were alive, as if it had been disturbed. As they drew closer to the blue planet, the human ships came into view, large, intricate structures that gleamed with the unmistakable signature of human ambition. Zara's stomach churned at the sight. They were not ready to be here, not ready to be aware of what lay beyond the veil of their world. She looked toward Sorrik, who stood silently by her side. His expression was unreadable, but the tension between them was palpable. The moment had arrived. They could no longer hide from the truth. "Prepare for contact," Zara said softly. The universe had one rule, and the humans had just broken it. The universe had one rule: don't wake the humans. It was the most sacred edict of the Omnir Network, an alliance that spanned galaxies and civilizations. For eons it had held steady, ensuring that humanity remained confined to their fragile Earth, isolated from the vastness of space, but that balance had just been shattered. Zara stood at the helm of the Innoa Star, her fingers hovering over the interface controls, eyes fixed on the growing signal emanating from Earth. It had begun as a flicker, an errant pulse of energy barely detectable in the cosmic void. But now it was unmistakable. Humanity was reaching out, and the consequences of their actions were about to unfold. Arnie. She ran a hand through her dark hair, pulling it back into a tight braid. Every instinct within her screamed to turn away, to disengage, to allow the humans to remain ignorant and isolated. But she knew better than anyone that once the path had been set, there was no going back. "We've been waiting for this," Sorrik said, his voice deep, calm, yet laced with an undercurrent of concern. The massive figure of the Omnir Network's oldest member towered beside her, his purple skin shimmering under the dim light of the bridge. Sorrik had seen countless species rise and fall, but even he knew that humanity was different. They were volatile, brilliant, and reckless all at once. "I don't think they understand what they've done," Zara replied, her voice laced with a mix of awe and dread. "It's like they've opened a door they can't close. The problem isn't that they found us, it's that they found us, and they're asking questions." Sorrik studied the data as it streamed across the central control table, his dark eyes narrowing. "Their technological advancements are far ahead of what we expected. They've breached the barrier faster than we anticipated. Whoever is leading them now is dangerous. More dangerous than they know," Zara said, her fingers grazing the interface as she expanded the data feed. "The signals, they're not just calls for help, they're demands. Requests for knowledge they are not ready to understand." Sorrik looked at her. "And you think they've figured out how to pierce the cosmic veil?" Zara nodded grimly. "I do. It's not just their technology. They've stumbled upon something they were never meant to find. I've seen this before. When a species begins to tap into the deeper currents of the universe before they're ready, they attract the wrong kind of attention." The holographic map of the galaxy flickered in the air above them, highlighting Earth at its center. Around it, dozens of human-made satellites and ships now dotted the surrounding space. Ships that were designed for exploration, for expansion, tools that had never been meant to leave their homeworld, but now they were expanding outward, breaking the ancient seal that had kept humanity confined. Zara's heart quickened as she analyzed the data further. Among the signals, there was a pattern that matched exactly what she feared. A signal to the stars that would soon be answered by forces that humanity couldn't even begin to comprehend. The map zoomed in on Earth's surface, where a new development had caught her eye. A massive space station, built at the farthest reaches of their orbit, not unlike the great observation posts created by more advanced civilizations. But this one was different. It was new, unrefined, and it hummed with an unspoken energy, the same energy that had torn through the fabric of space when the first pulse had been sent. "Oh, they've done it," Zara muttered, staring at the station. "They've built a gateway." Sorrik stepped closer, his eyes scanning the projection. What are they trying to reach, Zara? Zara nodded slowly, grimly. The humans are not prepared. They think they're reaching out for knowledge, for connection, but they're reaching into the unknown, and that unknown will not be forgiving. The silence on the bridge was thick as both of them pondered the magnitude of the situation. Zara's training as a guardian of the Omnir Network had always focused on preventing this very thing, preventing the breach of the cosmic veil. But somehow, against all odds, humanity had managed to stumble upon something far older, far more dangerous than they could possibly understand. Sorrik turned to Zara, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "What will you do? You know we cannot allow them to continue. The balance must be maintained." Zara knew what he was asking. It was the most difficult decision she could make, and one she had feared for years. The Omnir Network had watched humanity grow, knowing full well that this moment might come. The humans would reach the stars, as all species did in time. But their recklessness, their wild ambition, could destabilize everything. It could tear apart the very fabric of the universe. "I will go to them," Zara said finally. "We cannot allow them to go any further without understanding the consequences. We have to make contact, and we have to do it now." Sorrik nodded gravely, his voice steady. "Then we must prepare. Time is not on our side, Zara. If they continue down this path, the consequences could be catastrophic." The journey to Earth was swift, though not without its own set of challenges. Zara's mind churned with 1,000 thoughts as the Innoa Star accelerated toward the blue planet. The stars outside the window blurred into streaks of light as they crossed the distance at unimaginable speeds. Zara's stomach twisted as she looked out at the distant Earth, a world she had studied for decades, yet a world that had now crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. As the Innoa Star approached Earth's orbit, Zara could see the human-made space station more clearly now, a giant ring of metal and light spinning in the void, orbiting their home planet. There was no mistaking the advanced technology at work, but something about it felt off. It was too much, too soon. Zara activated the communication channel, sending out a discreet, untraceable signal to the space station. She needed to speak to whoever was in charge, and she needed to do it before anyone realized what was truly happening. The silence was oppressive as she waited. Then a crackling voice echoed through the speakers. "This is Commander Olivia Larch of the Eos Station. Who is this?" Zara's pulse quickened. The voice on the other end was human, but there was something different about it. It was confident, measured, almost as though the speaker already knew far more than she should. "This is Zara," Zara replied, her voice steady. "I represent an intergalactic alliance called the Omnir Network. I have come to speak with you about the recent transmissions." There was a pause on the other end, and Zara could almost hear the wheels turning in the commander's mind. Then the voice responded, cool and composed. "Oh, we've been expecting you." Zara's breath caught in her throat. How could they have known? She hadn't transmitted any information about her arrival, and the Omnir Network was never meant to be found by the humans, let alone contacted. "How?" Zara managed, her voice barely a whisper. "We've been studying, preparing. The signals we've been sending are more than just pleas for contact, you know. We're not just asking for knowledge, we're asking for answers. We know there's more out there. We know the truth." Zara's mind raced. The human commander knew. She knew what was at stake. And yet, despite the knowledge, she was still so far from understanding the full depth of what her species had awakened. "You've reached out to the stars, Commander Larch, but you don't know what you're calling. Zara's voice was firm, each word a warning. You don't know the forces you've attracted. A silence followed, but this time it was filled with tension. Finally, Olivia's voice came back, softer now, almost pained. We're ready, we have to be. We've spent too long in the dark. Zara stared at the communication console, her heart heavy with the weight of what she knew was about to unfold. No one is ever ready for the dark. There was no turning back now. The universe had one rule, but the humans had broken it. And now, the reckoning would begin. The universe had one rule: don't wake the humans. Zara's mind echoed the warning as she stood at the helm of the Innoa Star, staring out at Earth. Her heart, usually calm and calculated, now thudded heavily in her chest. The conversation with Commander Olivia Larch had only deepened the unease spreading through her. Despite the impending danger, the humans, it seemed, were unprepared for the consequences of their actions, yet more eager than ever to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos. It wasn't just curiosity that drove them anymore. No, it was something far more dangerous. Hubris. Zara had spent her life studying Earth, monitoring the humans from afar. She'd observed their history of violence, their technological advances, their chaotic wars, and their brief moments of brilliance. But this was different. There was something in the way they had reached out to the stars, something that resonated in her bones. They had broken the most sacred law of the universe, the law that kept the delicate fabric of existence intact. And now, the reckoning was coming. As the Innoa Star drifted closer to the human space station, Zara felt the hum of energy pulsating through the ship's engines. The invisible connection between her and the vast network of celestial entities, the Omnir Network, seemed to flicker and waver with every passing moment. Something had shifted. Something far more dangerous than she had anticipated. Sorrik's voice broke the silence. His tall, imposing figure stood across the room, his gaze fixed on the data streaming through the control panels. "Zara," he said, his tone low and deliberate, "I have been monitoring the frequencies. The humans are preparing something. They're not just sending out signals anymore. They're building." Zara turned to him, her brow furrowing in concern. "Building what?" Sorrik's eyes narrowed. "A portal." Zara's stomach dropped. She had feared this. The humans had been creating their own technologies that had once been only theoretical in their understanding. The construction of a portal, one that could bridge the gap between the realms, was something far too advanced for them to control. And now they were doing it without knowing the risks. They were toying with forces they couldn't even begin to comprehend. "Is there any way to stop them?" Zara asked, her voice shaking slightly despite her efforts to stay composed. Sorrik shook his head. "If we intervene now, we risk drawing their attention to us. The signal has already reached them. They're aware of our presence. We've overstayed our welcome in this sector. Any more interference and they may panic. And we both know what humans are capable of when they panic." Zara's thoughts raced. She had been trained for moments like this, but there was no easy answer. The Omnir Network had seen civilizations far more advanced than Earth's fall apart, torn apart by their own arrogance. But humanity was different. They were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was both terrifying and fascinating. "Then we have no choice," Zara muttered. "We must go to them. And we must make them understand the consequences of their actions before it's too late." Sorrik nodded, but there was a shadow in his eyes. "Are you ready to face what you'll find, Zara? Once the veil is torn, there's no putting it back together." Zara didn't reply immediately. She simply turned back to the view screen. Earth loomed large in the distance, its blue oceans and white clouds betraying nothing of the storm brewing in the darkness of space. She had always admired the planet, its wild beauty, its untamed spirit. But now she saw it for what it truly was, a species on the precipice of a power they couldn't understand. "No," she said finally, "but we don't have a choice." The Innoa Star drifted silently through the black void of space, the human space station growing larger as they approached. The Eos Station was unlike anything Zara had ever seen before. A vast ring of technology, its surface glowing with an almost unnatural energy. It was clear that this station was no mere research outpost, it was something more. It was the culmination of humanity's ambitions, a beacon to the stars. Zara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her decisions settle on her shoulders. They were about to cross a threshold. Once they made contact with the humans, there would be no going back. There would be no more separation between their worlds. Earth, for better or worse, would now know the truth. She sent out a signal to the station, her voice calm but resolute as she spoke into the communicator. "This is Zara of the Omnir Network. I request to speak with Commander Olivia Larch." A long pause followed before a voice crackled over the speakers. It was Olivia's voice, but this time it sounded different, strained, tense. "You're here. I knew you would come. We've been waiting for you." Zara's heart quickened. "Then you know why I'm here. The signal you've sent out, it has consequences. You've awakened forces you cannot possibly understand. Your actions have broken the balance." There was a moment of silence, a stillness that seemed to stretch for an eternity. Finally, Olivia's voice came back, quieter now, almost fragile. "I don't know what you're talking about. We've only been trying to make contact, to learn, to reach out. Why is that so wrong?" Zara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the question. She had expected this. Humanity's relentless drive for knowledge and understanding, their desperate need to pierce the unknown. It was what had made them dangerous. But it was also what had made them brilliant. Because there are things in the universe that are older and more powerful than you can imagine, Zara said, her voice steady but filled with an underlying sadness. And when you reach into the unknown, you don't just find answers, you find consequences. The kind that could tear apart your world and everything around it. Another pause. This one felt heavier, more final. "You're wrong," Olivia said, her voice hardening. "We've waited too long in the dark. We deserve to know what's out there. We won't be held back anymore." Zara's fingers tightened around the console. She knew that tone, the refusal to listen, to understand. It was the same arrogance that had destroyed so many species before them. The humans were no different. They believed they could control the forces of the universe. But they couldn't. "You don't understand," Zara said, her voice breaking with frustration. "You're not ready for this. You're not ready for what lies beyond your stars." For a moment there was nothing but silence. And then the light in the communication room flickered. The entire ship seemed to vibrate with a deep hum, a tremor in the fabric of space itself. Zara looked up, her heart pounding as the star map on the control panel shifted, like a ripple in the vast sea of the cosmos. A voice, not Olivia's, but something deeper, more ancient, filled the space between them. "The door has been opened. The threshold has been crossed." Zara's blood ran cold. She felt a presence that she had only ever read about in ancient texts. A presence that reached beyond the stars, beyond even the Omnir Network. This was not something human. This was something far older. "This is not just about you," Zara whispered, the gravity of the situation finally settling in. This is about the balance of the entire universe. The bridge of the Innoa Star was alive with energy, the atmosphere thick with tension. Sorrik stepped forward, his face grave as he studied the sudden shift in the stars. The void outside seemed to warp, as if the universe itself had buckled under the pressure of the portal humanity had opened. The ripple in space was undeniable. Something had entered their galaxy. Something powerful and incredibly ancient. The voice watched and leveled itself at Tommy. "The door is open," Zara said, her voice tinged with fear, "and something has heard them." As Zara stood at the helm of the Innoa Star, the reality of what they had unleashed finally set in. The balance of the universe had been shattered, and now no one knew what would come next.